All right, so welcome to the deep dive. And today we're going to dive into something kind of unusual. We're
Oh,
going to be looking at Isaac Newton,
right, sure.
like the father of physics, pretty much, right? But also the law of one,
Okay.
which is this like channeled text, claims it's from like an extraterrestrial source.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I know it sounds like
Right, little out
a
there.
little out there,
Yeah.
right? But we've got some excerpts from a biography on Newton.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is from like 1846.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
And then we've got books, I through V of the law of one.
Okay. It
So,
sounds like fun.
yeah, so it might seem like a strange pairing,
Yeah.
but that's kind of what we do here, right?
Yeah.
Like, try and find the interesting
The
connections.
cover things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uncover something interesting and maybe even some like insights
Yeah.
that we would have expected.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
So think of it as like a mental adventure where
Mhm.
science and like spirituality kind of like collide.
I like that. I like where this is going. Yeah, it's often in those unexpected pairings that we find the good stuff.
Exactly. So diving into the Newton biography,
Okay.
one thing that really stood out was how religious this guy was.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of people know Newton as just like the gravity guy, right?
Sure. Sure.
But this biography makes him seem
Like he was really into it.
almost obsessed
Wow.
with biblical prophecy.
Yeah.
Like, he even wrote a whole book on it.
Really?
Yeah. So it was important to remember, like, the context, right?
Yeah.
Like, back then, in his time,
Yeah.
science and religion
Weren't as separate.
weren't really seen as separate things
Right. Yeah.
like they often are now.
Absolutely.
So for Newton, like, studying science was a
Yeah.
way to
Like figure.
unravel God's creation, you know?
Right. To see how it all worked.
Yeah, and it was seen as like evidence of God's design,
Yeah.
not like a contradiction,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
Totally.
And there's this quote from the biography that I thought was really interesting.
All right.
It describes Newton's intellect reaching its culminating point in his religious studies. Like, knowing how smart this guy was,
Yeah.
it kind of makes you think, right? Like, even the smartest people
Yeah.
are still products of their time.
Sure. Like their beliefs are shaped by when and where they lived.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, it really raises questions about like historical perspective.
It does.
But even beyond that,
Yeah.
I think it shows how much we all want to find meaning
Meaning.
in the universe,
Right.
right?
Purpose.
Yeah.
Or like where do we fit in?
Exactly. Like, whether it's through science
Mm.
or religion,
It's a constant search.
we're always trying to figure out where we fit in this whole grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move from Newton's beliefs
Okay.
to his actual scientific work.
Okay.
So in his Principia Mathematica,
Yeah.
which is like his big
A masterpiece.
Yeah, I came across this passage where he's talking about the laws of motion.
Uh-huh.
But then he brings in this idea of God's omnipresence
Okay.
being like essential to how those laws work.
Interesting.
Like, he's blending physics and metaphysics
All right.
together, you know?
So like God's presence is woven into the fabric of physics.
Yeah, exactly. And what's fascinating
Yeah.
is he's not just saying God is like everywhere.
Okay.
It's more like God's presence
Yeah.
isn't some external force. It's more like it makes up
What does that even mean?
like the framework of space itself.
Like God is space.
It's like saying God's presence is what makes motion even possible.
That's a pretty radical idea.
Yeah, for sure, especially back then.
Yeah.
And get this, it almost feels like
Like what?
a precursor to some ideas we're still grappling with today,
Oh, really?
like in modern physics.
Yeah.
Like when we talk about the Higgs field or
Very.
the fabric of space-time.
Yeah.
It's like these ideas kind of echo what Newton was talking about.
Huh. Like a divine presence underpinning reality.
Yeah, exactly.
It's remarkable how these themes keep popping up, right?
It is.
Like across centuries,
Mhm.
humans are still searching for that one big idea
Yeah.
that explains it all.
Yeah, a unified theory, you know?
Yeah, the fundamental principle of existence.
Exactly.
It's pretty profound when you think about it.
It is. So, okay, now,
Yeah.
let's bring in the law of one.
Okay.
So this thing claims it's
Channeled information.
channeled information from an extraterrestrial being.
All right, so right off the bat,
Right.
we're in a different realm.
And one of its like core principles
Okay.
is this,
Right.
quote, all things are one.
Hmm.
There is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony.
Wow.
All is one.
Oh, that's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me is how different that sounds from Newton's view of God.
Okay, how so?
Well, Newton's God is more personal, like a being who's actively involved in the universe.
Yeah.
But the law of one's creator,
Yeah.
it's more
It's
abstract.
like less of a person.
Yeah, less about a personal God
Okay.
and more about this underlying oneness.
Right, that connects everything.
Exactly. So we've got these two totally different perspectives on the creator, each with its own set of
Right,
implications.
and I guess the question is,
Yeah,
how do these different viewpoints, like, shape our understanding of the universe?
that's a great question and one we should think about carefully. Maybe we should take a moment to let that sink in before we move on.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's fascinating to see how these ideas from such different places might connect in ways we wouldn't expect.
Absolutely. I think both Newton's personal God idea
Yeah.
and the law of one's oneness thing
Yeah.
both offer valuable insights.
Okay.
Newton's view,
Yeah.
highlights the awe of a universe with these laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the law of one
Yeah.
encourages us to see how connected everything is.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not mutually exclusive. You know what I mean?
That's a really good point. Like, it's not about picking one or the other.
Right.
It's about seeing how they fit together
Yeah,
to
exactly.
give us a bigger picture.
Right. A richer understanding of the universe.
Yeah, and speaking of interconnectedness,
Oh, yeah.
the law of one has this concept of wanderers.
Wanderers. Okay.
And these are like beings from higher densities,
Higher densities.
like higher levels of spiritual evolution
Okay.
who choose to come to Earth.
To Earth.
Yeah,
Why would they do that?
to help raise consciousness here,
So,
like cosmic volunteers
volunteers. Wow.
drawn to help us evolve.
Huh. That's a pretty selfless act.
Right.
To come to a denser realm
Yo,
to help us out.
it is. And what's really interesting
Yeah.
is how this connects back to Newton,
To Newton. Okay.
even though he wouldn't have used the term wanderers.
Right. Sure.
But think about Newton's drive to learn,
Hmm.
his pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah. To uncover the secrets of the universe.
Exactly. Could that be seen as like a form of that wanderer impulse?
Like a yearning to understand the creator.
Yeah. And our place in the grand scheme of things.
Wow. I see what you mean.
Right.
It's like both Newton and these wanderers
Yeah.
driven by the same desire
To connect to something bigger.
to something bigger
To find those deeper truths.
and to help everything evolve.
Exactly. And that brings us to another point where Newton and the law of one kind of converge.
Okay. What's that?
They both stress how everything's connected.
Yeah.
Newton showed it through, like physics.
Right. Gravity.
Yeah, how everything's bound together.
Mm-hmm.
And the law of one frames it as like a unified consciousness.
Saying we're all part of the same cosmic fabric.
Right. So if we accept this idea,
That everything's connected.
yeah, like both these sources suggest,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for us?
For us.
Yeah, like in our everyday lives.
Right. It's easy to get lost in these big ideas.
Yeah. How do we make it practical?
I think that's the key question.
Right.
The power of these ideas
Yeah.
is in how they can change our perspective.
Okay.
If we truly believe in this interconnectedness, it changes how we interact with the world.
And each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We move past that illusion of separateness
Right.
and start to see the value in everything,
In every being.
every interaction, every moment.
It's like shifting from individuality to unity.
Yeah, we're not separate.
We're all part of this web.
A web of relationship.
Right. And with that shift
Yeah.
comes responsibility.
Responsibility for our actions.
Yeah, we start to understand that what we do, our thoughts, our words,
Our actions.
have ripple effects.
It impacts everything around us.
It's a call to be more aware,
More conscious
more compassionate.
of how everything's connected.
It's a beautiful way to see our place in the universe.
It is. We're not just watching
We're participating.
in the evolution of consciousness.
Exactly. And it's something that both a 17th century scientist
And an extraterrestrial being.
seem to agree on.
It says a lot about these ideas, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a message that goes beyond time and space,
Yeah.
reminding us that we're all connected,
And that connection
can change how we understand things.
and how we act in the world.
So as we keep exploring these ideas,
Yeah.
let's take a minute to think about what we've found so far.
The connection between Newton and the law of one,
Yeah.
it really points to a deeper understanding.
Of ourselves and the universe. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive.
It's been a really interesting journey looking at Isaac Newton and the law of one.
Yeah, exploring these two worlds, science and spirituality.
Yeah, it's amazing how, even though they come from such different places,
Right.
They both seem to be saying the same thing about unity.
Yeah, like this interconnectedness of everything.
It's like they're both telling us to look beyond the illusion that we're separate.
Yeah, to see the underlying harmony that connects us all. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the biggest takeaway for you? Like, what one idea should our listeners really think about?
Hmm. Well, if we really buy into this idea that everything's connected,
Like Newton's laws and the law of one suggest.
right, then the question is, how does that change how we live our lives?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Does it change how we interact with others, how we make decisions?
How we see our place in the universe.
Exactly. That's the challenge, but it's also the opportunity.
It's like a call to be more
Or
conscious, to
compassionate.
realize that what we do affects everything around us,
Yeah, it's about shifting from me to we.
and understanding that we're all in this together.
Who knows, maybe by embracing that idea of interconnectedness,
Yeah,
we can create a better world.
for ourselves and for everyone who comes after us.
A nice thought.
It is. Well, it's been a great journey exploring these ideas, and I hope it's inspired you to keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep searching for those connections. Until next time, keep diving deep.